What is it that makes the difference of the hand of God being upon them? I remember as an evangelist, I preach every week of my life, many times different cities per week, and I'll get paired up with singing groups. I have been in meetings with some of the greatest. I've been there. I've had to sing behind quartets that sound wonderful. The music came out of it. Everything was on pitch. Everything was on tune. And when they got done, it was wonderful. And everybody gave a little golf clap when they got done. It sounded good. It was on pitch. It was on tune. Everything was wonderful. But at times, I must admit, some of it was more of a show than it was ministry. But I know what it's like to come to church and, boy, be able to raise my hands and tears run down my cheeks and God move in my heart. But I also know what it's like to sit on the same pew and look over my wife and tears be running down her cheeks, and I can sense the Lord's moving in her heart, only for me to be dead, dry, and cold. Now, I know you wouldn't admit that, but I've been that way before. I've been there when I thought, what's all these other people worshiping about? I don't feel nothing. And here's what us Baptists do when we get in that. Well, look at all these people faking. I don't feel nothing. What if they're not faking? And you're just in a position in your heart where God just moves right by you. When I was a kid, Mama had a Christmas tree. We'd get out of the basement and we'd put it up. That was before we had these pre-lit trees. Mama would get that tree up and we'd put it in the house. And we'd plug that thing in. And I don't ever remember a year where that thing worked. It wouldn't come on. And I remember my mama saying this, there's 10 million lights on that tree. And she'd say this, there's a bad bulb somewhere. And then it was our job to go light by light by light by light by light by light to try to find one bad bulb. Because that one bad bulb would stop the whole tree from lighting up. You know what I found about revival and church work? One bad bulb can grieve the Holy Spirit of God and shut the whole thing down. God, give us a desire to be clean. God, give us a heart to say, Lord, I want you to be pleased with my life in such a way where the Spirit of God can move through our youth group and move through our church, and revival can be possible in our community and in our town. I'm telling you, I don't want to be normal, but I want to be filled with the Spirit. Then you're going to have to get clean. We must be clean. How we talk to each other matters to God. I remember Becky and I, when we first got married, our pastor made this statement. He said, if you can get through the first year of marriage, everything else will be fine. I remember thinking, I have married the prettiest woman in the entire world. What in the world could we argue about? I'm so in love with her, I can't imagine. I'll just let her do whatever she wants to do. She's so pretty. I can't imagine arguing with something as pretty as that. We got married, Dr. Sexton, and everything was wonderful. We lived for months, not one argument, not one spat. Everything was wonderful. And Barbie dolls do not turn into Barbie dolls in 15 minutes. What are you saying? You're going to find out one of these days that it is a process of construction. I promise. Girls, say amen right. This is your chance to say amen. It takes, hours to paint the barn. I promise it does. It does. I learned this really quick while I was working on staff at the church, and this painting of the barn scenario several times in a row has caused my wife and I to be late at church. my pastor was not a man that enjoyed us being late for church. I remember he called me in his office. I drove him to meetings back and forth, and usually he would call. We had a pager in that day. I went down to the office. I said, yes, doctor, how may I help you? I said, what do you want me to get ready? What you want me to do? He said, no, I don't want to talk about that. And he got his glasses and put them on the edge of his nose. He said, I've been noticing. He looked at me like that. You know what I'm talking about? He said, I have been noticing that you and Becky have been late for church the last couple Sundays. He said, I do not pay you to be late. Rather, these people tithe and sacrificially give so I can pay you to be early and get your jobs done before church begins. He said, I know what you're dealing with. I helped raise your wife. I know what's going on, and I suggest if you want to keep your job, that you go home and put your big boy britches on, get your house in order, and get your wife to church on time. Do I make myself clear? I said, yes, sir. I'll go buy me a pair of them things right now. I'll go buy me. I went. I remember calling Becky. She worked at a hair salon at the time. I said, Becky, man, you got to have a talk. Yes, honey, I can't wait. I said, I'm trying to be stern, trying to stay mad, you know. I said, we got to talk. And she said, I'll be home at this time. I said, yes, ma'am. I said, we need to talk. And we really need to have a conversation. And she came home. I remember we lived in a little staff house, a little trailer there beside the campground. And I remember walking through that house. I was trying to be mad. I said, remember what the preacher said? You got to straighten your house up. Put your big boy britches on. You got to deal with this thing. You got to talk to her. Don't look her in the eyes, CT. Whatever you do, don't look her in the eye. And she come in the house. And with that pretty little voice of hers, she says, honey, I'm home. I felt my heart melting at the moment. She said, honey, I'm home. I said, get in here. We need to talk. I turned around and I was going to have a forcible conversation. And about that time, she wrapped them arms around me and said, I missed you so much today. She hugged me. And then she looked at me. She said, now, what did you need to talk about? I said, nothing. She melted me that quick. She said, no, something was important. What did you need? I said, preacher is mad at us for being late. She said, did you throw me under the bus? I said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I did not. No, ma'am. She said, did you? I said, I told him we'd fix it and we'd be there. She said, oh, you're the best husband in the world. I said, remember, we need to be there early Sunday or I'm going to lose my job. She said, I'll be there, honey. Everything will be fine. The week went by. The weekend came. I reminded her Saturday night, if you got to get up at 4 a.m., whatever you got to do, we cannot be late. She said, I got this, honey. That morning, I woke her up. The Bible says, dwell according to knowledge. I woke her up with a cherry Coke, which is her favorite beverage. I woke her up with a warm washcloth to help her. I tried my best to help her get out of bed. And she finally got out and construction began. All this different stuff happened. Y'all, I ain't going to go into it. I mean, just all this stuff. Becky's got this big old hair. She worked at a hair salon at the time. And she's got to do that before she does anything else. I mean, it's like building a building on that thing. She got that hair. She got this little fine-tooth comb. She'll lift it up. Keys and that stuff, then she'll lay it back perfectly, not a hair out of place, and then she quietly moves underneath the thing. She'll grab 2 5-gallon jars of hairspray and she'll she's spraying that stuff all over her hair. And then the makeup begins. It's a whole other story. Before I knew it, make a long story short, before I knew it, Dr. Sexton, I looked at my watch and realized, we're going to be late again. After all this, we're going to be late. And I remember what the man of God said. The man of God said, put your big boy britches on. The man of God said, get your wife there on time. So I said something that to this day I still regret. I walked in there trembling, but I looked at her, put my big boy britches on, and I said, woman! Oh, don't ever say that. When I said that, and then pretty little blue eyes of hers turned red, little horns come up out of that hair. We had never had a fight, never had an argument, but at that moment, I'm telling you, the first Townsend household little spat had begun, and I'm talking about, I felt demons in that house. I mean, just all over that place. She said things, I said things. I mean, it went on. My big boy britches turned into skinny jeans that quick. I mean, it was on at the Townsend house. We got in the car, went to church. Something about Baptist folk. Something about Baptist folk. We got out of our car. Becky's walking up in there. And as soon as we stepped on the curb of the Baptist church, horns went down, eyes back to blue. I turned back into the preacher. We began to talk Baptistic. How are you, brother? Joy to be in the house of the Lord today, is it not? Wonderful to be. Oh, Becky's like, hey, girl, I wore that dress today. On and on and on and on and on and on. We walk in the church, go to our separate sides of the choir. It's a large church, over 2,000 people every single week. I walk to my side, she walks to her side. The preacher walks up, turns around, and he looks at me. I said, he goes, and the preacher got up there and started praying. He turned around after he prayed. He said, I tell you how we're going to start the service off before I pray. He said, I'm going to pray, and right after I get done praying, he turned around and he said, C.T. and Becky, won't y'all come sing a song for us this morning? And I thought, you don't want to hear what we're going to sing today. You don't want to hear what we're going to. We walked down, preachers praying, and I'll never forget standing there with that microphone, Becky beside of me. And about that time, the Holy Spirit, Lord, you saw it all. You know it was her. You need to be talking to her, not me. Y'all know how you do. Lord, talk to her. No, you the head of the house. You the big boy. And God began to break my heart on how I responded to her, how I talked to her. Before I knew it, I realized I have a decision to make. I can sing the song as we are, knowing that God's not going to be in 100 miles of it. Why? Because we're not clean. We're dirty. Or I can swallow my pride and make things right. I grabbed Becky by the hand. And I said, baby, I said some things I shouldn't have said, and I could have handled things better. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. When I said that, Becky melted. She began to cry. Said, I'm so sorry. I was supposed to, all this stuff. And right there, while the preacher's praying, we're having a little altar call, just me and Becky making things right. Watch this. We got things right with each other, right with God. I'll never forget, Becky stepped up and began to sing, and as she sung, I watched people begin to get out of their seats, coming to the altar. I remember seeing a mama that sat on the front row, had 3 kids with her. She was dying of cancer. And I remember that family getting up, coming to the altar, praying together, and God moving in that place. And it was as if the Holy Spirit dealt with my heart and showed me, never forget what I can do if you'll just stay clean. If you'll just stay clean. Keep short accounts with God.